The screaming started before the shuttle even touched down. Not battle alarms. Not decompression warnings. Screaming. Raw. Panicked. Professional soldiers screaming. Captain Marcus Hale was halfway down the corridor when the emergency bulkhead slammed shut behind him. Red lights bathed the steel walls in a pulsing glow. Over the comms, a voice shouted, "Do not make eye contact. I repeat, do not look at it." Another scream cut the transmission short. Marcus didn't slow down. The hangar doors were opened by the time he arrived. Inside, 30 armed security officers stood in a wide semicircle around a reinforced containment field. And inside that field was something that should not have been alive. It was small. That was the worst part. No larger than a terrestrial wolf. Sleek black fur. Metallic silver streaking down its spine. Limbs built for speed. Muscles too dense for its size. And its eyes. Molten gold. Focused. Aware. The predator cub. Official classification, apex war predator, juvenile. Unofficial classification, planet killer. 3 frontier worlds had already fallen to its species. Entire ecosystems erased. Atmospheres burned. No survivors. And this was just a child. "Captain." Lieutenant Grant barked. It made eye contact with Jensen. He dropped instantly, neural overload. Marcus scanned the floor. Jensen was being dragged backward, unconscious but alive. The cub had never touched him. It didn't need to. It's testing dominance through ocular challenge, one alien biologist stammered from behind reinforced glass. Direct gaze equals combat invitation. The cub shifted. Its head moved slowly. Not frantic. Not afraid. Studying. Every soldier tightened their grip on their rifles. One twitch. One sudden movement. The hangar would become a furnace of plasma fire. "Sedatives aren't penetrating its metabolism," Grant said. "It's adapting." Of course it was. Marcus stepped forward. "Sir." Grant snapped. "Protocol states minimum 10-meter distance." Marcus kept walking. The cub's ears twitched. Its gaze locked onto him instantly. Weapons raised. Safety overrides disengaged. "Captain, break eye contact," someone shouted. Marcus didn't. He stopped just outside the containment field. Close enough to see the creatures breathing. Fast. But controlled. This wasn't rage. This wasn't chaos. This was assessment. The cub tilted its head slightly. Marcus crouched slowly. Around him, the room tensed so hard it felt like the air might shatter. "Do not look at it." Grant repeated. Marcus ignored him. Instead, he smiled. And gave a soft, sharp whistle. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just a simple 2-note sound. Every alien observer froze in horror. The cub blinked. Its ears shifted forward. Weapons powered up with a rising hum. The cub took one step closer to the inner edge of the field. A ripple passed through the barrier. Energy flickered. "Containment fluctuation," someone shouted. The cub lowered its head slightly. Not a predator about to strike. Something else. Something curious. Marcus didn't move. Didn't breathe faster. Didn't reach for a weapon. He whistled again. Softer this time. The cub's tail, previously stiff as a blade, lowered an inch. "You're insane," Grant whispered. The cub approached the barrier. Its golden eyes never left Marcus. It wasn't projecting aggression. It wasn't preparing to pounce. It was listening. The containment field flickered again. Energy levels spiked dangerously. "If that barrier drops," Grant began. Marcus slowly extended his hand toward the glowing wall. Not touching. Just there. Open palm. The cub mirrored him. It stepped forward and pressed its paw against the opposite side of the field. The entire hangar fell silent. No attack. No neural shock. No roar. Just a small, controlled exhale from the creature. Like relief. And then, the barrier crackled violently. Warning alarms erupted. Containment failure in 5 seconds. Weapons locked fully onto the cub. "Captain, get back now." Marcus didn't move. The cub didn't move either. Its eyes remained on him. Focused. Unblinking. Trusting? No. Not yet. But considering. The barrier collapsed in a burst of blue sparks. The cub was no longer contained. 30 rifles aimed directly at its skull. One flinch away from annihilation. Marcus remained crouched. Hands still extended. The cub stepped forward. Free. And the entire galaxy held its breath. The cub was free. 30 rifles tracked its skull. Targeting systems painted it in overlapping red grids. One muscle twitch. One aggressive pulse. And the hangar would detonate in plasma fire. Captain Marcus Hale didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't lower his hand. The cub stepped fully out of the dead containment field. No rush. No blur of speed. Just controlled motion. Its paws made almost no sound on the steel deck. "Fire on my mark," Lieutenant Grant whispered. Marcus spoke calmly without turning his head. "Stand down." "Sir." "Stand down." The cub stopped 3 meters away. Its golden eyes never left Marcus. There was no wildness in them. No frenzy. Just intensity. Studying him the way a storm studies a coastline. It lowered its head slightly. Weapons tightened. Safety triggers trembled under human fingers. The cub took another step. 2 meters now. Inside lethal distance. Grant's voice cracked. It dropped Jensen without touching him. "We don't know what it can do up close." Marcus knew something they didn't. Predators don't waste energy. They don't escalate unless threatened. And right now, it wasn't threatened. It was curious. Marcus gave the same 2-note whistle again. Soft. Steady. The cub's ears flicked forward. Its breathing slowed. Around them, scanners beeped frantically. "Neural output stabilizing," one of the alien biologists muttered from behind glass. "That's impossible." The cub stepped closer. 1 meter. Its size was deceptive. Up close, Marcus could see the density of it. The coiled power in its shoulders. The micro-adjustments in its claws gripping steel. This creature would one day level cities. And it was inches from him. Grant inhaled sharply. "Captain." The cub leaned forward. Not lunging. Leaning. Its nose twitched. Scenting. Marcus didn't withdraw his hand. Didn't stiffen. He let the animal decide. The cub's nose hovered inches from his fingers. Warm breath brushed his skin. The entire hangar stood frozen between life and extinction. Then, the cub nudged his palm. Softly. Several soldiers audibly exhaled. Grant blinked. It made contact. No neural surge. No attack reflex. The cub pulled back slightly and tilted its head again. Marcus let his hand move, slowly, gently brushing the side of its jaw. A dangerous risk. The cub stiffened for half a second. 30 rifles nearly fired. Then the tension broke. The cub exhaled. A low vibration rolled from its chest. Not a growl. Not a threat. A rumble. Contentment. No aggression spike, the biologist whispered, voice shaking. "It's bonding?" Marcus shook his head faintly. "Not bonding," he murmured. "Choosing." Suddenly, alarms shrieked again. Power fluctuations surged through the hangar grid. Emergency lights flickered. The cub's head snapped upward at the sound. Instinct flashed across its body, shoulders tensed, claws flexed. Weapons instantly locked tighter. Energy surged from the upper deck, someone shouted. "If it panics." They all knew what that meant. A startled apex predator didn't lash out blindly. It erased threats. Marcus didn't look at the ceiling. Didn't glance at the weapons. He whistled again. Softer than before. Lower. Steady. The cub's eyes snapped back to him. Focused. Breathing heavy. Marcus slowly lowered himself to one knee. Making himself smaller. Non-threatening. The cub studied him. Seconds stretched like hours. Then, instead of reacting to the chaos, it stepped closer. And pressed against his side. Gasps rippled across the hangar. The creature's body was warm. Solid. Heavy with restrained power. But it wasn't attacking. It was anchoring. Grant lowered his rifle an inch. "Why him?" he whispered. Marcus rested his hand carefully against the cub's shoulder. Because in this moment, it had decided he wasn't prey. Wasn't competition. Wasn't threat. The cub's tail, previously rigid as a blade, lowered completely. Then curled slightly toward him. A juvenile instinct. Proximity seeking. Security feeds across the station were already transmitting the footage to Alien Command. Observers watched in disbelief. A species that erased worlds was leaning into a human. The alarms died down. Power stabilized. Silence filled the hangar. The cub shifted its weight. Then, slowly, deliberately, it sat beside Marcus. Not in submission. Not in dominance. Beside him. Equal height from the floor. Equal posture. Choosing alignment. Marcus scratched lightly behind its ear. The rumble returned, stronger this time. A purr powerful enough to vibrate through the deck plating. Grant slowly lowered his rifle fully. "Sir," he said quietly. Marcus kept his eyes on the cub. "Yeah? What do we tell the council?" Marcus looked at the creature leaning calmly against him. And understood something chilling. This wasn't containment failure. This was first contact. "With respect," Marcus said softly. "We tell them the predator just picked a side." The footage hit the Galactic Council before the hangar doors even resealed. 37 species watched in stunned silence. An apex war predator, juvenile, yes, but genetically engineered by evolution to dominate entire biospheres, was sitting calmly beside a human. Not restrained. Not sedated. Choosing proximity. Back in the hangar, Captain Marcus Hale remained on one knee. The cub leaned lightly against his side, golden eyes scanning the room. Not hunting. Mapping. Lieutenant Grant approached slowly, rifle lowered but not holstered. "Biometrics?" Marcus asked quietly. One of the alien biologists swallowed hard while staring at his scanner. Heart rate stabilized. Cortical spikes decreasing. Stress hormones dropping to baseline. "That's not possible," another whispered. "Apex juveniles do not downregulate without pack presence." Marcus ran his fingers slowly along the cub's shoulder. "Maybe you've never defined its pack correctly." The cub shifted. Its head turned toward the observation glass above. The council's remote drones hovered there now, projecting faint blue holographic sigils. The cub's muscles tightened. Grant noticed instantly. "Sir," elevated tension Marcus. Marcus didn't look up. He whistled again. Low. Measured. The cub's ears flicked back toward him. Its breathing steadied. The tension drained. Across the galaxy, silence deepened. One counselor finally spoke through the overhead projection. "Human captain. Step away from the organism." Marcus didn't move. "With respect," he replied calmly, "you're escalating its stress. You presume to instruct us on a species that has eradicated 12 civilizations. I'm observing one that hasn't eradicated me." Murmurs rippled through the alien feed. The cub suddenly rose to its feet. Instant reaction, rifles snapped back up. Grant hissed, "Easy." The cub didn't lunge. Didn't snarl. It stepped forward, placing itself slightly between Marcus and the hovering council drones. Protective posture. The biologist's scanner beeped frantically. Defensive alignment pattern detected. The council voice sharpened. "Terminate it immediately." Every Marine stiffened. Marcus' jaw tightened. "If you fire," he said evenly, "you trigger a fear response." "And if we do nothing?" the counselor demanded. Marcus looked at the cub standing in front of him. Watching the drones. Assessing threat vectors. "If you do nothing," Marcus said quietly, "you let it learn." A charged silence followed. The cub gave a low sound. Not a roar. Not aggression. A warning rumble. Directed upward. At the drones. Grant whispered, "It's guarding you." Marcus corrected him softly. "No. It's guarding us." Because in the cub's perception now, they were grouped. Aligned. Shared territory. One of the drones made a sharp mechanical adjustment. The cub reacted instantly. Its claws scraped the steel deck. Power surged through its muscles. Grant's finger hovered over his trigger. Marcus stood slowly. No sudden motion. He stepped forward until he was shoulder to shoulder with the cub. Then he did something that made every alien strategist go silent. He placed his hand on the cub's head. Not restraining. Not commanding. Just contact. The cub's tension eased slightly. Marcus looked up at the drones. "If you continue hovering like predators," he said evenly, "it will respond like prey that refuses to be hunted." The counselor hesitated. That hesitation was historic. Because for the first time, they were uncertain. "Withdraw observation drones," one council member finally ordered. The machines slowly retreated upward. The cub's claws relaxed. The rumble faded. It glanced up at Marcus. "Checking." Marcus gave one soft whistle. The cub exhaled and lowered back to a seated position beside him. The hangar collectively released its breath. Grant shook his head slowly. "We've studied them for centuries. Containment protocols. Kill thresholds. Behavioral suppression grids." Marcus looked down at the cub calmly watching the retreating drones. "You studied how to survive them," he said. "You never studied how to coexist." The alien biologist whispered, almost to himself. It should not recognize cross-species alignment cues this quickly. Marcus gave a faint smile. It's not recognizing species. He looked at Grant. It's recognizing behavior. Across the galaxy, something far more unsettling settled into the council chamber. If humans could align with apex predators, then humans were not fragile negotiators. Not minor diplomatic nuisances. They were compatible with the apex of the food chain. One counselor finally spoke in a hushed tone. This changes the balance of power. Back in the hangar, the cub leaned its weight gently against Marcus again. Not submission. Not dependence. Trust under construction. Grant looked at Marcus carefully. What happens when it grows up? Marcus watched the golden eyes scanning the hangar calmly. What happens, he said quietly, is that it remembers who didn't shoot first. The cub's tail flicked once against the steel floor. And for the first time, the Galactic Council began to fear the human more than the predator. The order came quietly. Too quietly. From the council chamber light years away. Deploy failsafe. In the hangar, no one heard the words. But the station did. A low-frequency hum rolled through the deck plating. Captain Marcus Hale felt it through his boots before the alarms triggered. The cub felt it first. Its head snapped upward. Ears flat. Muscles locked. Grant's eyes widened. That's not reactor noise. The biologist's scanner screamed. Electromagnetic surge building in the floor grid. Marcus' blood ran cold. They embedded a shock lattice, he realized. Of course they had. If containment failed, the station itself would become a weapon. A full-spectrum neural disruptor built into the hangar deck. Designed for one purpose. Fry the predator's nervous system instantly. The hum intensified. The cub staggered slightly. Not from fear. From pain. Its claws scraped violently across the steel. Golden eyes flashed bright. Grant shouted, "They're triggering it remotely." Across the galaxy, counselors watched with grim determination. If the human dies, one said quietly, it will prove our point. In the hangar, Marcus dropped fully to his knees beside the cub. "Hey," he said calmly, even as the hum climbed higher. "Stay with me." The cub's breathing spiked. Pain receptors firing. Instinct screamed at it to eliminate the threat. And the threat was everywhere. The floor. The air. The walls. 30 rifles rose again, because if the cub reacted, it would be catastrophic. Marcus did the only thing he could. He wrapped both arms around its neck. Not restraining. Anchoring. The hum peaked. Energy surged. The cub let out a sharp, distorted cry. And every soldier flinched, waiting for the explosion of violence. But Marcus whistled. Not sharp this time. Not command. A long, low, steady note. The sound cut through the rising electromagnetic vibration. The cub's eyes snapped to him. Pain still there. But focus returning. "Look at me," Marcus whispered. The deck began to glow faintly beneath them. Neural disruptor charge at 90%. Across the galaxy, hesitation crept into the council chamber. "This will trigger a retaliatory cascade," one warned. "It will eliminate the threat," another insisted. In the hangar, the cub's body trembled violently. Its claws dug deep into the metal. One lunge now. And nothing in the room would survive. Marcus pressed his forehead gently against the cub's. "Trust me." The hum hit maximum amplitude. And then, the cub did something no apex predator had ever done under systemic pain assault. It lowered itself. Not attacking. Not fleeing. Lowering its body against Marcus. Minimizing its profile. Choosing stillness. Choosing him. The neural surge discharged. A shockwave rippled across the deck. But it wasn't lethal. The council had flinched first. At the final second, they reduced output. Enough to test. Not enough to kill. The hum died. Silence crashed into the hangar. Smoke curled faintly from scorched plating. Marcus slowly lifted his head. The cub was breathing hard. But it hadn't attacked. Hadn't retaliated. It had endured. With him. Grant stared in disbelief. It suppressed a pain-triggered extinction reflex. The biologist's hands were shaking. That's not suppression. That's higher-order override. Across the council chamber, the implications landed like a meteor. If an apex predator could override instinct, under stress, because of human proximity, then this wasn't mere bonding. It was neurological alignment. One counselor whispered, "We may have just witnessed the formation of a cross-species apex pair." In the hangar, The cub slowly lifted its head. It looked around. Scanned the soldiers. The glass. The ceiling. It knew what had happened. And then it looked back at Marcus. Not confused. Not afraid. Aware. Marcus gave one soft whistle. The cub leaned into him again. But something had changed. The rumble in its chest now wasn't just contentment. It was warning. Directed outward. Protective. Grant lowered his rifle completely. They tried to kill it, he said quietly. Marcus nodded once. They tried to test it. The cub rose slowly to its feet. Not aggressive. But taller now. More solid. It stepped half a pace in front of Marcus. Placing itself between him and the ceiling. The message was unmistakable. Across the galaxy, silence filled the council chamber. One counselor finally said what none wanted to admit. If we move against humanity, we will not face them alone. Back in the hangar, Marcus placed a hand on the cub's shoulder. Its golden eyes scanned the room calmly. Learning. Remembering. Choosing. Grant swallowed. Sir. Marcus didn't look away from the cub. Yeah. What do we call it? Marcus watched the creature that had endured pain instead of unleashing annihilation. We don't name weapons, he said quietly. The cub's tail flicked once. We name allies. And somewhere far beyond the station. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy flinched. The hangar doors sealed. No one spoke. No one moved too quickly. Because the balance of the galaxy had just shifted. And everyone felt it. The cub stood in front of Captain Marcus Hale. Not crouched. Not defensive. Standing tall. Golden eyes alert. Aware. Alive. Lieutenant Grant broke the silence first. The council just pulled emergency session status across all networks, he said quietly. They're classifying this as a strategic anomaly. Marcus gave a faint smile. They would. The cub shifted slightly, its shoulder brushing against Marcus' leg. Not seeking reassurance. Reinforcing position. Shared territory. A new holographic projection flickered above the hangar floor. The council appeared again. This time, no arrogance. No theatrical authority. Only calculation. Human captain, the lead counselor began carefully, you have demonstrated unexpected influence. Marcus rested a steady hand on the cub's back. It's not influence. The counselor's eyes narrowed. Then explain it. Marcus met the projection's gaze without hesitation. You built cages, he said calmly. You studied kill patterns. Suppression thresholds. Extinction probabilities. The cub's tail moved slowly behind it. Measured. Controlled. But you never studied trust. A murmur rippled through the alien chamber. Trust does not apply to apex organisms, one counselor snapped. Marcus tilted his head slightly. Then explain why it didn't tear this station apart when you tried to fry its nervous system. Silence. The cub looked up at him briefly. Checking. Marcus gave a soft, familiar whistle. The cub exhaled slowly. Across the galaxy, military analysts replayed the footage frame by frame. Neural disruptor surge. Pain response spike. Instinct escalation curve. Interrupted. Not suppressed by technology. Not overridden chemically. Interrupted by proximity to a human. One counselor finally voiced the fear settling in the chamber. If this creature matures under human influence. Marcus finished the sentence for them. It won't see us as prey. The implication landed harder than any threat. A mature apex predator bonded to humanity would not be a weapon. It would be an ally. And that was worse. Because allies choose. The counselor's voice lowered. What are your intentions, Captain? Marcus looked down at the cub. Its eyes were no longer scanning for threats. They were calm. Centered. Present. We intend, Marcus said evenly, to teach it the difference between fear and restraint. Grant added quietly, same thing we teach ourselves. The council projection flickered slightly. You realize, the lead counselor said carefully, that this event permanently alters the balance of power. Marcus nodded once. Good. The cub stepped forward half a pace. Not aggressive. But unmistakably aligned. The council chamber erupted in low debate. Some demanded immediate containment of humanity. Others argued withdrawal. Because now they understood something chilling. If humans could align with the apex of evolution, then humans were not secondary players in the galaxy. They were compatible with the top of the food chain. The projection stabilized again. For now, the counselor said cautiously, "We will observe." Marcus gave a faint smile. That's what it did. He scratched lightly behind the cub's ear. The deep rumble returned. Steady. Confident. Alive. The council feed terminated. Across the hangar, rifles finally lowered completely. Marines exhaled. Some laughed nervously. Some simply stared. Grant looked at Marcus carefully. So what now? Marcus stood fully, and the cub stood with him. In perfect sync. Now taller than before. Stronger. Already growing. Now, Marcus said quietly, "We raise it right." The cub looked up at him. Not as master. Not as owner. As chosen. Its tail curled once around Marcus' leg briefly. Claiming. And then it turned its gaze toward the sealed hangar doors. Toward the wider galaxy. Grant swallowed. "You think they'll test us again?" Marcus watched the predator that had endured pain instead of unleashing extinction. "Oh, they will." The cub's ears flicked. Listening. "But next time," Marcus continued calmly, "they won't just be testing the predator." He gave one final soft whistle. The cub immediately stepped to his side. Ready. Aligned. Chosen. The galaxy had feared the apex species for centuries. What they feared now was the fact that it had chosen humanity, and humanity had chosen it back.